Hi,
Hi.
good afternoon. Welcome.
Hi.
Congratulations first.
Thank you. Thank you so
We're
much.
really excited. And today we just wanted to introduce ourselves. My name is Liz London. I am the co founder of Causability, and I'm joined with Ian Wallace, and he is the other founder of Causability. And we are going to be working with you for the next several months until your
Amazing.
cause is completed, and hopefully even after that.
Yes.
um, to make sure that it's successful, to make sure you get all the tools you need and fund it,
Amazing.
and mainly fund your cause.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm Drew McCrary. I'm a queer artist and filmmaker, born in the South, specifically from Alabama. I am now based in LA, and I kind of split my time between Alabama and Los Angeles. Um, my kind of creative process has kind of come from like a deep level of like one, a little bit of like academic rigor. I have a fine art degree in photography and a master's degree in film production. And so I have really kind of accumulated this practice of that's a mix of deep research, identity based creativity, and community based like organizing. And so the last kind of like 3 years of my like creative journey, I've kind of worked with climate organizations and different places to bring awareness to different issues that go on, different climate issues that have been going on across the state, specifically focusing on the South, because that's where I'm from. So I'm always kind of like bringing my work back to the place that kind of raised me. And so that's kind of where I got introduced to Jasmine, who runs Freedom Farm Azul in Prattville, Alabama. And so that's um, an hour, about 2 hours north of the capital of Alabama. And so, firstly, me and Jasmine kind of like I found out what they were doing, and so they hold like this space that's both farming and land and giving food back to the community, but is also a place of healing. And so Jasmine is also a justice facilitator. And so the farm is very much more of their passion project, not passion, but yeah, I would say very much a passion project that they're looking to once again give back to the community. And so when we connected, I was like so excited to find a space within Alabama because I've been really searching to figure out a way to bring back my creative expertise back to the place that kind of like raised me. And so we've been talking and connecting and trying to figure out what we were doing. And so we've been working on a film together over the last like 9 months. And that's kind of like we filmed in May and we're like, okay, so like what's the next thing that we can like do together that really one follows like the mission of the farm, which is about nurturing the community, healing the community, and feeding the community. And I have this like deep love for oral storytelling as well. I came across, or through like my deep research, the it's gonna leave me. Library of Congress, there you go, has this like deep archive of folk. It's under what they call like folklore or folktale, where they have like interviewed people and they've collected these diasporic stories. And I was just like, I was deeply listening to them, like, oh, they're like learning about dialect and different people's stories. And I'm like, how can I bring this kind of like program that the Library of Congress has done teetering since the 70s, but bringing it to Alabama and also bringing in Polaroids. And so this is where then my kind of like creativity comes in, is also like I said, it's like I come from a photography background as well. And one of the things like me and Jasmine were really talking about when I was on the farm was a lot of people in the community don't also get to have photographs taken of them or get to understand what it means to like kind of like create something that doesn't feel like it has such a um high level of risk as like a creative person who doesn't live their life creative, if that makes sense. And so that's really where the Polaroids have like kind of like come in with the oral history. So it's also about how can I both collect these stories, but also give something back and give something that's a tool that people can like learn and like um, constantly redo and take to different places. I think that's one of the
Make it sustainable.
Exactly. It's a practice that's like sustainable. That's also one deeply connected to our roots, and also builds like a community of people. And because the farm is like almost dead central in central Alabama, so it's really beautifully located for people in the north and the south to kind of like come together and like really like tell our story. So that's what I'm really excited about, and also just like to really it's been kind of like my mission since kind of like I've left Alabama, come back, and I've left and I've come back, and it's been like this constant journey of like figuring out like what what's my responsibility. And so I think this is really kind of like has been like the first steps for me in my creative practice to figuring out how do I bring all these things that I've learned from climate organizing to fine art photography and research based and like all these different kind of like pools of like creativity, and bringing them down and also bringing it accessible to like the community there in Alabama, and specifically the queer community in Alabama. Because but also the thing is like we're in this really like specific bubble where I think like we can kind of like we kind of like tilt the scale a bit as well on who also gets to have their voices like uplifted. And I think that's also part of it, as well as also building this like database too of like where you can see and hear your future ancestors and your past ancestors. And it's this thing that's like constantly can like live. And I think like it starts in Alabama, but I think like the beauty of it is like what does it look like on a larger scale then to bring people in other southern states to the farm and to this land. That's like one of the things also like a bit of a history of the land is like it's indigenous land. It's land that has never had enslaved humans on it. So it's also this place where people can come and you feel it feels different. It feels lighter. It feels there's a schoolhouse. There's cabins. There's like also it's a place for learning. And I think like this is just like kind of like the beginning of this collaboration between me and the farm and Jasmine, and like the stories that I want to like tell in Alabama in general. So I feel like maybe that was a little long, but I wanted to give like the full breadth of the project and the scope and scale.
The stories, are they going to be written for the people and then they're going to express them and take photos, or are they going to write their own stories, or both?
So what it'll be is I'm going to build out kind of this curriculum that will go on how to like actively listen, actively tell your story. And so it'll be about, so I'm wanting to have an audio recordist. So we'll be legit audio recording, and then we'll transcribe them as well for online. So I'll facilitate how to get individuals to tell their stories, and they'll record them onto audio device. I'll have a sound recordist, and then how the photos kind of go into it is that I'm wanting to pair up the individuals to then go and then kind of like communicate about the stories, like kind of this like retelling. So I think part of like storytelling is like retelling stories. I think we don't talk about that a lot. I think it's like, oh, we tell this story once, but it's like, oh no, it's like to build this kind of like circular thing is like retelling. And I think that's where then the photos come in, is this then allows for them to like explore the land outside of being recorded on the mic, but then retelling the story to like cross generationally as well.
That sounds exciting. Are you going to videotape any of it too, since you're a filmmaker?
Yes.
Or film
Yes.
it, I guess I should say.
Yeah, the plan is definitely to also capture the experience as well. Because I think it would be a very missed opportunity to bring this all together that's very like visually tactile as well, and not capture the event. So 100%.
So, how many people are you thinking about inviting or participating in this project?
So they are planning this really big event um, called Flowers for Fannie Lou Hamer. And so um, the farm is also the name of it. The Freedom Farm Azul is based off Fannie Lou Hamer's Freedom Co-op in Mississippi. It's going to be this kind of like collaborative event as well that Jasmine has been like coordinating for like the last 2 months with also another poet, a queer poet. And so um, honestly, if I'm okay, so if I'm dreaming, I'm hoping for at least like a 20-person outcome for like the first like iteration would be ideal.
So, when is the time? What time frame are we looking at?
So the event would be October 5th. Would that
Are
work
you
with
just
your
going to do
guy?
one event, or is it going to be more than one?
At the moment, I think we're gonna start with the first one,
Hmm.
survey, figure out how that is, and then look at what we can change and challenge, and then maybe do like a smaller cohort as well. It's kind of the I think because I guess what I also don't want to do is I don't want to make the stakes so high the first time where people maybe feel like, oh my goodness, this program, like the people who are invited to come and speak. I think one of my things I've learned, especially through documentary filmmaking, is that when people kind of feel that the stakes are really, really high or depend on them, the outcome seems to be worse. And so one thing I'm thinking about is like, how do the people in the first cohort also then come back as well and help lead then a second cohort of people to tell these stories? And so once again, kind of keeping this like circular motion of then
Yeah,
because so then this idea that then essentially I'm not needed for this to keep going on as well.
like a train the trainer.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a great, and that makes it sustainable. So,
And then keeping all the any of like the audio recording or like Polaroid cameras would then stay
mhm.
on the farm, so then like it could be repeated as well. So it's also about building out I think a little like supply for this type of event as well,
Mhm.
so it can be done very like inexpensively.
Is the event going to be part of a fundraiser as well? Or I'm sure they're always trying to raise money, but
Yeah, not that I know of. The event also kind of, I think is supposed to correlate. It's their the classroom is currently being built on the land, so it's also kind of being a little bit of like a, hey, the classroom is built. Now you really can come here for sure, and there's like this space for you to like come and learn.
so what town is this near?
Prattville, Alabama, is where the farm is. The closest like city would be Montgomery. Do you guys have any more questions for me?
Not off the top of my head. Ian, do you have any?
Not really. No. Sounds like you already have kind of like this, event was gonna happen regardless, but now you are able to expand it with the grant. So seems like you already
Mhm.
have like everything really you need, except just the three draws, just kind of get everything done.
Mhm.
Um,
Exactly. That's what I'm really
Alabama.
excited about.
Yeah, Alabama is a very interesting place because it is, but it also is not considered part of Appalachia, even though like the Appalachian Mountains go straight through it. But for some reason, like
Exactly.
people don't really give it the history that the Appalachian Mountains come with. But it has all that other, much darker history of, just everything that happened. I mean, that's where, um, the Trail of Tears went right through there on the way. Like
Exactly.
it's like part of the all the scars of, the federal government's like biggest sins all kind of go through Alabama and those parts of the world. And it's one of those things of like, like you'll go to parts of Oklahoma, or because I'm from Oklahoma, I go from parts of Oklahoma, go to parts of Florida, go to parts of Georgia, go to parts of Alabama, and it just feels like there's just this metaphysical scar that's kind of just left behind. Like you have this uneased tension somehow that's unresolved,
Yes.
and so it's kind of cool that you
Like
guys
the
found.
land is crying.
Yes, exactly.
So it's really cool that you found a space that like seems to be kind of like able to like a place of healing, essentially.
Exactly. I love that you talk about like the Appalachian, because I like that. I was actually just talking to my partner about that, because I feel like I'm like, because I grew up in North Alabama, right there on where the Appalachian Mountains come through Alabama, and I'm like, Alabama actually never gets talked about in the Appalachian history. It always really confused me that I didn't even really know growing up that was where that was. Oddly enough, that sounds so strange. It wasn't until I was adult that I was like, oh, you mean like my backyard?
Yeah, no, there's always been the weird thing for me, because like when I first moved to Birmingham for about a year, and I drove into Birmingham, it's like, what are all these mountains doing here? Like, we just drove through a valley. It's like, it's like, well, this is the start of the Appalachian Mountains. It's like no one ever talks about the Appalachian Mountains, or Alabama's history, and that it feels like it stops at Tennessee. It's like,
yes, exactly. So so if you've been to Birmingham, you understand, because I'm like been north of Birmingham, so it's like it's literally right there. I'm like, we're here, Alabama's here as well. Like, yeah. So that's why I was really also excited to get this grant, is to like just be able to like have other people see Alabama as also a place that like deserves like rehabilitation as well. I think that's something that kind of gets lost. And I think a really good example that I always go to is like Georgia. It's like it's like we just have to just like continue to just like put in that like the boots on the ground work to just continue to take steps forward. That's like we see that it's possible in the South to kind of like to just find that little bit level of equity. And it's just like it takes like people like us to like put that healing, and it kind of like it starts there.
Exactly. And I love that you're doing it with things that relate to the earth, to the land, because that's where the healing happens, is our connectivity to the earth. And that's where the healing comes.
Yes, exactly.
So I love that.
It is Flowers for Fannie Lou Hamer, an annual celebration. It includes keynote from scholar, poet, and queer activist Alexis Pauline. There will also be a documentary screening and a community art project called Seeding a Song, in which the community is doing a record-breaking largest singing circle in honor for Fannie Lou Hamer. And then, so what they also do is then they bring out different vendors and things like that from Alabama to interact with the farm as well. And then people can learn. So they're on-land farmer, Farmer Greer will also like walk people through the land, show them what they're growing. They grow like muscadine, grapes. They grow white corn. They grow peppers. They grow. It's amazing. And so they'll also take them through the land of like people who are interested in just like learning how to also just like grow on their own land as well. So it's also about like starting that first like introduction to growing food too. So that's also a big part of the event. Yeah, Fannie Lou Hamer. So they were a civil rights activist in Mississippi. They in 1964, basically they had this thing called the Sunflower Project in Sunflower County, Mississippi, in which they built schoolhouses, and she bought out like 1,000 acres. It ended up being up to like 1,000 acres of land where they started growing, and she employed people and housed people on the land because the federal government kept defunding from their county. And so she really stepped in and kind of like became this, like, I would say maybe a good way is like this unofficial mayor of their own Sunflower County. And so also Jasmine's like ancestry comes from Mississippi as well. And so that plays like a really big part of it.
Well, that's really exciting. Well, I'm really happy to meet you, and I love your passion, and you're just effervescent. You're just you just have bubbles of,
I love
it's
it.
just such magical energy around you. It's so fun. Well, we're so excited. This is so
Me
cool. I
too.
love it. It's really
I'm so
cool.
glad.
Yeah. Well, it's well deserved.
Yes, thank you.
You're
I'm
welcome.
really, yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Okay, take care.
Take care, you too.
Namaste.
It was lovely meeting.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.